Today, I want to revisit some work that I did a little while ago, comparing pensions with ISAs and lifetime ISAs here in the UK. We're going to look at how these accounts work, how you contribute to them, how they grow, what sort of fund sizes might be possible, the impact of inflation, and then I'm going to help you with how to balance your savings between these really important accounts. Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Pete Matthew and I'm a chartered financial planner based here in the UK. And this video is brought to you by Meaningful Academy Build Wealth. More on that in just a little bit. So let's start by giving you a crash course on how each of these accounts work. And we're going to start with pensions. There are loads of different types around. Some of you will have defined benefit pensions, which are mostly reserved for the public sector these days. Here, you get a guaranteed future income. You don't build up a pot as such. Most of us have defined contribution pensions, sometimes called money purchase plans, where you pay in and your employer does too if you're employed, and you build up a fund, a pot of money that one day you can access. Now, the age you can access that is currently 55, and it's going to rise from 2028 up to 57, and it will go higher. Many of us pay into our pensions through our payslip if we're employed. Now, under automatic enrollment rules, you have to put in 5% of your pay, and the employer puts in 3%. Of course, you and they can contribute more should you want to. But here's the thing, pensions get tax relief. So if your contribution is £100, say, well, you would have paid 20 quid in income tax on that money had it been paid into your bank account instead. But by paying it into your pension, the 20 quid that you would have paid in tax goes into your pension instead, and it's much better in your hands than HMRC's. Now, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you would have paid 40 quid in tax, but that's gone into your pension instead. That is tax relief. Now, there's a maximum that you can pay into a pension each year and get tax relief. It's called the annual allowance. Very broadly speaking, that's £60,000 a year or 100% of your relevant earnings, whichever is lower. I've done videos explaining all that in more detail and I'll put a link in the description. Now, if you pay into a pension from money in your bank account, money that's already been taxed essentially, then HMRC will add the basic rate tax that you would have paid into your pension for you. So if you pay in £80 to your pension, the pension company will go and ask HMRC for the 20 quid tax relief, and that gets added into your pension account within a couple of weeks usually. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, then you can claim the difference between the basic rate and the higher rate through your tax return. Now, any money inside a pension grows, free of all taxes. And then when you get to retirement age, you're going to have a bunch of options. You're going to pay income tax on most of the money that you take out of a pension, and that's important to know, but we're going to get to that in the next video. So subscribe to the channel to make sure you see that video, and maybe as we're going through this one, if you think it's worth a like, hit that button too. Thanks. Now, ISAs are simpler because there's no tax relief to think about. You can't pay into an ISA through your payslip, only from your bank account. You can put up to £20,000 each year into an ISA, and whatever you have in will grow tax-free indefinitely. Importantly, when you take the money out at any time, it's tax-free. Now, there are 5 kinds of ISAs, of which really you only need to worry about 3 for our purposes today. A cash ISA is simply a tax-free bank account. You don't pay any tax on the interest. A stocks and shares ISA has proper investments inside it designed to grow tax-free over years. And then there is the lifetime ISA, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. The other 2 types are a junior ISA, which is a savings plan for children, and then something called the innovative finance ISA, which sounds like it should be fun, but you can only hold peer-to-peer lending investments inside those, and I suggest that you steer clear of them. They are risky, and there is no protection from the government compensation scheme if anything goes wrong. So our third account is a lifetime ISA, and these are a subset of the main ISA environment. You can only put £4,000 a year into one, and that is included inside the overall 20 grand ISA contribution limit. The government will add a 25% bonus to whatever you put in. So if you put in the maximum £4,000, they will make it up to £5,000. And they do this because a lifetime ISA is designed to encourage folks to buy their first home. So as long as you use the money for that purpose and only for that purpose, you get to keep the government bonus. But if you take money out of a lifetime ISA for any other reason, you will have to pay a 25% penalty on the full balance that you take out. Now be aware, that's not just paying the bonus back. Because if you pay in £4,000 and get a £1,000 bonus, you've got a £5,000 pot. Then the next day you take the money out, you're going to pay a 25% penalty on the full £5,000. And that'll leave you with £3,750, which is less than you put in. You don't have to pay the penalty if you take the money out after age 60. So these can be useful for retirement planning as well. But you have to be under age 40 to open a lifetime ISA, and importantly, you can only pay into one until you are 50. You can have a cash lifetime ISA or a stocks and shares lifetime ISA. Okay, let's put some numbers on this. I want to look at the amounts that will be built up in the different accounts, because it'll be different because of the bonuses on a lifetime ISA and the tax relief in a pension, and maybe the employer match in a pension as well. But let's assume you don't start saving until you're 30. You know, you've had a great time in your 20s and you haven't saved a bean. But you're going to start at just £100 per month. And you never increase that. You save £100 a month, basically until you retire. But you're going to get a return of 6% a year on that money. Well, when you get to what will be your state pension age of 68, you will have £184,514 in an ISA, £220,814 in a lifetime ISA because you had the bonus up to age 50. Then I assumed that you carried on saving just without the bonus, like into a normal ISA. In your pension, thanks to the addition of tax relief, you would have £230,642. And if you're working for someone else and your employer matches your contribution, you'd have £461,285. Now those numbers might seem pretty big, but we're talking a 38-year investment horizon here, and we haven't taken inflation into account yet. At £200 per month saved, the numbers are here. £369,028 in an ISA, £441,629 in a lifetime ISA, £461,285 in a pension, and with an employer match in a pension, £922,571. Now it gets really interesting if you add a small amount to your savings each year. So let's say you start at age 30 with £200 a month and you add £10 a month to your savings each year. So in year 2, you're saving £210 per month. In year 3, £220 per month, and so on. Then the numbers are 593,872 in an ISA, 682,123 in a lifetime ISA, 742,340 in a pension, and with the employer match, £1,484,681. Now, we are getting well into the sizes of numbers that turn people off. So what I want to do now is apply inflation. And I'm going to do that at 4%. It's a reasonable long-term average. But if we assume a 6% actual return, we are beating inflation now by 2%. Well now, the numbers in today's terms, having accounted for inflation, are here. 260,296 in an ISA, 287,458 in a lifetime ISA, 325,370 in a pension, and with an employer match, £650,741. Now I'm going to leave this last set of numbers on the screen just for a sec, but let's talk this through. Obviously, you're going to get more in a lifetime ISA than in a normal ISA, thanks to the government bonus. Now, how much that benefits you is dependent on whether you use the money early to buy a home or you leave it until much later, after age 60. Also, of course, it's dependent on how old you are when you start using a lifetime ISA, because you only get the bonus until age 50. And you can't start one at all after age 40. And again, it makes sense that the tax relief means that the pension is going to be higher still, because that tax relief continues throughout. It doesn't stop at age 50. And of course, if you have an employer that matches your pension contributions, obviously that's going to make the pot much bigger. And those regular small increments, I'm always banging on about those here on the channel, they really do make a difference. Now, I haven't even looked at the difference it would make if you're a higher rate taxpayer, so as not to muddy the waters too much here, but obviously then for every pound of your own that you invest in a pension, the higher rate tax relief and maybe your employer match on the gross amount, that's going to be super valuable. Now, before we look at how you should balance your saving into the different accounts, let me just take a couple of minutes to talk about Meaningful Academy Build Wealth to you. This is my course. It's designed to help you master the process of improving your financial situation. I'm going to teach you how to invest, show you how to choose the funds inside your pension and your ISAs, teach you why it's important to take out just the right amount of insurance for your circumstances, and there's loads more in there as well. There is a year's access to the financial planning software that I use every day with clients, and I'll teach you how to use it. There is a community of like-minded people, all looking to help each other out, and there's a monthly live Q&A call with me. So you can check it all out at meaningfulacademy.com/buildwealth, and if you decide it's for you, use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. Maybe I'll see you on the inside. Okay, to finish up, I want to give you a kind of order of operations for what you should save into and when. Obviously, that's not easy. Everybody's situation is different, but we'll give it a go. Now, assuming you have no bad debt, that's credit cards, overdrafts, personal loans, and assuming you have an emergency fund of between 3 and 6 months of your basic expenses behind you, then you should join the pension scheme at work if you're not already. Pay in just the default amount and get your employer's contribution. That's free money, and it directs some of the tax that you'd have to pay anyway into your own pension pot. Now, if you're self-employed, you haven't got an employer to help you out, so you're just going to have to do this on your own. Open a pension and start paying in 5% of your earnings. Once pensions are sorted, start saving whatever you can into a lifetime ISA, assuming you're young enough. Understand that access is limited, so if you think you might need that money for anything other than a house purchase, you should just use an ordinary ISA. Go for the stocks and shares versions of each, unless you're going to need the money in the next 3 years or so. Try to build up a useful amount in ISAs. Pick a figure, right? Obviously, if you're working towards a house deposit, then the figure is probably going to present itself. But outside of that, maybe you want to get 10,000 quid behind you. Maybe it's 25,000 quid. You decide. Just build an investment pot that is accessible should it be absolutely necessary, but you're still thinking of that as a long-term investment because it should be. So now you've got a pension and an ISA. That's all most of us need. And so from here on in, all you've got to do is to decide how to split your monthly savings budget between your ISA and your pension. And you should generally tilt this towards pension because of the tax relief. But again, remember, access to pensions is impossible before age 55, rising soon to age 57, so bear that in mind. Ask your employer if they will facilitate something called salary sacrifice. That can be beneficial too. All right, next time we're going to look at what happens when you get to retirement, and we're going to take some kind of sample fund sizes and see what might happen if you draw out different amounts. The income tax on pensions are obviously going to be a factor there, so it's almost the reverse of the tax relief when you're paying in. So we're going to call it a day here for this video. If it has helped you, then please give it a like, and I look forward to reading the comments. By the way, I know when I mentioned a 6% growth rate earlier on, some of you are thinking, yeah, right, where can anybody get 6%? Well, maybe watch this video next as I explain how that is entirely possible. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.